the 2026 Guideline for the Early Management of Patients with Acute Ischemic Stroke. For years, pediatric stroke care was, well, it was mostly supportive.
It was passive. Watch and wait was
Yeah.
pretty much the standard.
So what's the big headline for 2026? What's the major shift?
Intervention. The headline is Active Acute Intervention. For the very first time, we have specific, endorsed recommendations for interventional treatments in children.
That is a massive shift.
Yeah.
But I have to ask about the evidence quality right away. For adults, we have these enormous randomized controlled trials. Do we have anything like that here?
No. And that's a critical point. Pediatric stroke is, thankfully, uncommon. So we just don't have that randomized data. These guidelines are built on expert consensus and prospective registry data.
So level A evidence isn't there. Clinical judgment is absolutely paramount.
That's exactly right.
Okay, let's start at the beginning, the initial presentation. This is where things can go wrong fast. For an adult, we're thinking facial droop, arm drift. How does it differ in kids?
Well, you still look for those sudden focal neurological deficits, but you need a much higher index of suspicion. And there's one specific trap you have to avoid.
A trap? What is it?
Seizures. In an adult who presents with a seizure, stroke is usually pretty low on the list of possibilities.
Right.
In a child, it's the opposite.
Explain that. Why would a seizure be a red flag for stroke in a child?
Children just have a lower seizure threshold, so an acute ischemic event can easily, and often does, present with a seizure. If you see a child with a first-time seizure, you cannot just treat the seizure and assume you're done.
You have to think stroke.
You have to.
Because the post-ictal state, the confusion and sleepiness after a seizure, that could mask the stroke symptoms.
Exactly. You might miss a subtle paralysis. If you attribute that deficit only to the seizure, you've missed the treatment window. First-time seizure in a child means potential stroke until proven otherwise.
Okay, so we suspect a stroke. We need to quantify the deficit. Can we just grab the standard National Institutes of Health stroke scale we use on every adult?
Not really. Those standard adult tools just perform poorly in children. I mean, you can't reliably ask a 2-year-old to hold their arm up for 10 seconds.
So what's the right tool?
It's the Pediatric National Institutes of Health stroke scale. It's modified for this population, and the guidelines confirm it has good inter-rater reliability, at least among specialists.
What about for our paramedics? In the pre-hospital setting, they use tools like FAST or LAMS. Is there a pediatric equivalent?
People are looking at something called the Pediatric Rapid Arterial Occlusion Evaluation. It shows some promise, but the data just isn't there yet. Its pre-hospital utility is, for now, unknown.
All right, let's move to imaging. We have the child, we suspect a stroke, we need to see the brain. For adults, it's a rush to computed tomography because it's fast. What about for kids?
The recommendation is different. It's a Class 2A recommendation for magnetic resonance imaging and angiography. That's the preferred modality.
Okay, Class 2A, so reasonable and useful. Why the preference for magnetic resonance imaging over computed tomography? It's so much slower.
2 big reasons. First, mimics.
Ah.
Kids have a lot of conditions that can look like a stroke. Complicated migraines, Todd's paresis, metabolic issues. Magnetic resonance imaging is just far, far better at telling those apart from a real ischemic event.
And the second reason, I assume it's radiation.
It's the radiation. We really want to avoid irradiating a developing brain if we can help it.
But as I said, magnetic resonance imaging is slow. A child often needs sedation, which takes time. And in stroke, time is brain. How do the guidelines handle that trade-off?
They're very, very specific here. They actually give a hard time limit.
What's the limit?
25 minutes.
Wow. 25 minutes. That's an incredibly tight window.
It is. The guideline is clear. If you cannot get the magnetic resonance imaging done within 25 minutes of arrival, you do not wait. You proceed to computed tomography and angiography.
So if your sedation team can't get there for 30 minutes, you abandon the MRI plan and go straight to CT.
Correct. You cannot delay identifying a potential thrombectomy candidate. And if you do switch to CT, you must use pediatric-specific dose reduction strategies.
You can't just hit the adult head button.
Never. The dose must be lowered for the pediatric brain.
Okay, we have our image. We've confirmed an acute ischemic stroke. Let's talk treatment. Intravenous thrombolysis. This is listed as a Class 2B recommendation. What does that tell us?
Class 2B is may be considered. It means the benefit is less well established. We think it helps, but the evidence isn't definitive.
And who is eligible for this?
It's for children aged 28 days up to 18 years. And they must have a confirmed stroke with disabling deficits.
And the time window?
It's a strict 4.5-hour window from symptom onset, very similar to the adult protocol.
Let's talk about the drug itself. In adult stroke care, there's a huge shift towards tenecteplase. It's a single bolus, it's faster. Can we use tenecteplase for kids?
No. The guidelines are explicit here. The agent is alteplase.
Why not tenecteplase?
There's just not enough data. I mean, we are talking about tiny case series, maybe 11 patients in one study. We don't have the pharmacokinetic data we need.
So tenecteplase is off the table for now. We're sticking with alteplase. What's the dose?
It's 0.9 milligrams per kilogram.
Is there a max dose, like in adults?
Yes. The total dose should not exceed 90 milligrams.
And this recommendation is really based more on safety data than efficacy trials, right?
That's correct. We're looking at retrospective data, like from the thrombolysis and pediatric stroke study. It suggests alteplase is generally safe. The efficacy is, well, it's an extrapolation from adult data.
Okay, let's get to the biggest update here, mechanical thrombectomy. Physically pulling the clot out. The guidelines split this up by age. Why?
It's all about anatomy. The vessel size in a 2-year-old versus a 16-year-old is dramatically different. The technical risk of the procedure changes with age.
Makes sense. Let's start with the older group, children 6 years and older.
For this group, 6 years and up, it's a Class 2A recommendation. We believe it is effective for a large vessel occlusion.
So pretty similar to adults. What about the time windows?
2 windows. The first is within 6 hours of onset. Then there's the extended window, from 6 out to 24 hours.
And that extended window, that requires special imaging, correct? To prove there's still brain to save.
Yes, you must show there is potentially salvageable brain tissue on advanced imaging to be a candidate in that 6 to 24-hour window.
Now, for the really challenging group, younger children, so from 28 days up to 6 years old, the anatomy is so small.
It is, and the recommendation level reflects that. It drops to a Class 2B.
So maybe considered.
Right. It may be reasonable within 24 hours of onset, but, and this is crucial, there's a mandatory requirement about who can do the procedure.
And who is that?
It must be performed by a neurointerventionalist with specific pediatric experience.
That feels like a major potential barrier. Why is that specific experience so critical?
The vessel caliber is tiny. The risk of vasospasm, of the artery clamping down when you touch it, is incredibly high. If you cause a spasm in a tiny vessel in a 2-year-old, you could shut off all blood flow. You need an operator who has the feel for pediatric vessels.
So this creates a huge logistical problem. Most hospitals, even comprehensive stroke centers, might not have that person on call.
That is the reality. It implies that these very young children need to get to a highly specialized center, and fast.
What about the absolute youngest? Neonates, so under 28 days.
For them, we have insufficient evidence. We simply do not know if thrombectomy is safe or effective. The vessels are just too fragile, and the data doesn't exist.
So that's a major knowledge gap. Speaking of which, let's talk about what we still don't know. What's the biggest blind spot in these guidelines?
Blood pressure management.
Really? That's surprising. Blood pressure targets are so fundamental to adult stroke care.
In pediatrics, it is completely unstudied. We have no idea what the optimal blood pressure target is to keep the brain perfused without, increasing the risk of hemorrhage.
So providers are basically guessing, using adult data.
We're extrapolating, yes.
You mentioned the high risk of seizures earlier. Should we be putting these kids on prophylactic anti-seizure medications?
Another great question with no answer. It's unstudied. We don't know if the benefit of preventing a seizure outweighs the side effects of the drugs, like sedation, which can completely cloud your neurological exam.
What about blood thinners post-stroke? Aspirin versus anticoagulation?
No randomized controlled trials. None. We have no high-quality data comparing anticoagulants versus antiplatelets for arterial ischemic stroke in children.
This really shines a light on how much research is still needed. Let's talk about the system itself. You mentioned the need for specialists. Are our hospital systems set up for this?
Not really. The guidelines point this out as a major structural gap. Well, the current stroke center certification bodies, they don't have pediatric-specific standards.
Yeah.
So you can be a top-tier comprehensive stroke center and have 0 protocols for a 3-year-old.
That seems dangerous, especially with these new recommendations for intervention.
It is. It highlights the need for specialized pathways, for certification standards that actually ensure pediatric capability.
Okay, let's summarize the key takeaways. Point 1, suspicion.
A very high index of suspicion for any sudden deficit. And remember that red flag, the first-time seizure.
Point 2, imaging.
Magnetic resonance imaging is best. But you have to remember that 25-minute rule. If it's not happening fast, get the computed tomography with dose reduction.
Point 3, medication.
Alteplase is the drug, 0.9 milligrams per kilogram. No tenecteplase.
And point 4, Intervention.
Thrombectomy is now a real option for the right candidates. But for the little ones under 6, you must have an operator with specific pediatric experience.
So this 2026 guideline really is a huge step forward. We are actively treating, not just watching.
It's a new era for pediatric stroke, but one that demands a new level of precision and expertise.
Again, our source today was the 2026 Guideline for the Early Management of Patients with Acute Ischemic Stroke, a guideline from the American Heart Association and American Stroke Association.